Did you ever wonder why a cup of coffee can turn a grizzly bear into a chirpy bird in the morning? That's caffeine for you, my friends. This magic dust, a part of our daily rituals, pulls us from the grip of slumber, kickstarting our day with an energizing jolt. It's the secret ingredient in our morning brew that gets us up and running, ready to face the world. But have you ever paused to ponder the story behind that magical cup of caffeine? Here's a bit of truth to swallow with your morning brew. Not everything is as warm and cozy as it seems in the caffeine industry. Picture this: the gentle aroma of coffee beans, the comforting warmth of a mug in your hands. Now let's take a step back. Before that fragrant bean lands in your grinder, it embarks on a journey that's brewed with a darker blend of exploitation and poor labor conditions. Think of the caffeine industry as an iceberg. Above the surface, we see the glossy packaging, the hipster coffee shops, and the promise of a caffeine kick to jumpstart your day. But there's a whole lot more hidden beneath the surface. Let's start with the farmers. These hardworking individuals, often residing in developing countries, are the backbone of the caffeine industry. They toil under the sun, nurturing the plants that yield our beloved beans. But here's the catch: they're often exploited, paid a pittance for their backbreaking labor. Imagine working long hours, day in and day out, under harsh conditions, only to receive a fraction of the profits. It's not just unfair, it's downright unethical. And it's not just the farmers. The factory workers who process and package these beans are often subjected to poor working conditions. Now you may be wondering, why is this happening? The sad truth is, it's all about the bottom line. The caffeine industry is a multi-billion-dollar business, and like any other industry, it's driven by profit. The cheaper the labor, the bigger the profit margin. It's a harsh reality, but it's important to know, because every time we take a sip of our favorite caffeinated beverage, we're indirectly supporting these practices. But I love my coffee, you might say, and trust me, I get it. But awareness is the first step towards change. So the next time you enjoy your cuppa, remember the journey it's been on, remember the people who've worked hard to bring it to you, and remember, your choices matter. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Brace yourself for the deep dive ahead. Have you ever thought about the journey those coffee beans take to reach your cup? Let's dive into the complex world of caffeine supply chains. Picture this: a coffee farmer in a remote region of Colombia or Ethiopia, waking before dawn to tend his crop. His family has been growing coffee for generations, relying on the income from each harvest to survive. Yet despite their hard work and dedication, the farmer's share of the profit is often a mere fraction of the final retail price. This is where our unseen villains come into play, the middlemen. These are the brokers, exporters, and traders who buy from the farmers, often at prices far below what the beans are worth. They then sell to international buyers at a hefty markup. While some middlemen play a crucial role in connecting isolated farmers to global markets, others exploit the farmers' lack of market access and bargaining power. In the coffee industry, the journey from seed to cup is long and fraught with inequality. The majority of the world's coffee is grown by small-scale farmers in developing countries. These farmers are often at the mercy of volatile market prices, fluctuating weather patterns, and the whims of middlemen. Yet, they persist, because coffee farming is more than just a livelihood. It's a tradition, a way of life, a passion. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are heroes in this tale too. Fair trade organizations and ethical coffee companies strive to create a more equitable supply chain. They work to ensure farmers receive a fair price for their beans and have access to resources and education to improve their farming practices. These unseen heroes are fighting to transform the industry cup by cup. In the grand scheme of things, these stories of exploitation and resilience may seem far removed from our morning brew, but they're intrinsically linked. These are the unseen faces behind every cup of coffee we enjoy. So, as we sip our coffees, let's remember those unseen faces who toil for our daily brew. You may think that expensive coffee at your favorite cafe is a ripoff, but let's look at who's really paying the price. Imagine a coffee farmer. He rises before the sun, working long hours in the fields to produce the beans that give life to your daily brew. Now envision that every time you buy a cup of coffee, only a tiny fraction of what you pay actually reaches this farmer. It's a glaring example of economic disparity in the caffeine industry. Coffee is a global commodity, second only to oil, yet many coffee farmers live in poverty. It's a bitter paradox, isn't it? The beans they labor to produce fuel economies, industries, and your morning routine, but the profits barely trickle down to them. Consider this: An average cup of coffee in a cafe costs around $5, give or take. Out of this, a meager percentage, sometimes less than 1%, returns to the farmer. The lion's share of the price you pay goes towards processing, packaging, shipping, marketing, and of course, the cafe's profit margin. In some coffee-growing regions, farmers receive as little as a few cents per pound of coffee. It's a pittance, especially when you consider the labor and resources involved in growing coffee. From planting and nurturing the crop to harvesting and processing the beans, it's a process that takes several months. Yet the return on investment for these hardworking farmers is sadly disproportionate. And it's not just the farmers who bear the brunt. The environment pays a price too. Conventional coffee farming practices often involve deforestation and excessive use of pesticides, leading to soil degradation and loss of biodiversity. But here's the kicker. The coffee industry is worth over $100 billion. Yes, you heard it right, $100 billion. Yet the farmers at the heart of this industry struggle to make ends meet. So the next time you're sipping your latte, remember the real cost behind it. The price of a cup of joe is more than just a financial transaction. It's a complex web of economic disparity, environmental impact, and human effort. It's a reminder that each sip we take is a link in a chain that connects us to someone halfway around the world, and it's up to us to make that connection a fair one. But wait, don't despair. There's something we can do to make a difference. In the grand scheme of things, it's easy to feel like our choices don't matter, like they're just a drop in the ocean. But consider this. Every time we choose what to put in our coffee cups, we're voting with our dollars, and collectively these votes can create waves of change. When you're standing in the grocery store aisle staring at the rows of coffee beans, remember that you have the power to choose not just the flavor profile or the roast level, but also the ethics behind the beans. By opting for fair trade coffee, you're supporting growers who are paid a fair wage for their work. You're supporting communities that can invest in education, healthcare, and sustainable practices. And speaking of sustainability, let's take a moment to talk about our brewing habits. Single-use coffee pods might be convenient, but they're also creating mountains of waste. By choosing to brew our coffee in a more eco-friendly way, we can help reduce this waste. So maybe you're thinking, all right, I'm sold, but where do I start? Well, start by doing a little research. Look for brands that are transparent about their sourcing and sustainability practices. Check out local roasters who might be working directly with coffee growers. And when you're grabbing a cup of joe on the go, bring your own reusable cup. Now I know, these changes might seem small, they might even seem inconvenient. But remember, the biggest waves start with the smallest ripples. And every time we make these conscious choices, we're creating ripples. We're choosing to support fair wages, to protect our environment, to make a difference. So next time you're reaching for that cup of coffee, remember, it's not just a pick-me-up. It's not just a delicious beverage. It's a chance to vote with your dollar, to choose sustainability, to choose fairness. Remember, every cup of coffee is a chance to make a difference. So while we can't deny the allure of caffeine, it's time we wake up and smell more than just the coffee. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned today. We've delved into the dark side of caffeine, unmasking its hidden effects on our bodies and our minds. We've journeyed through the unseen heroes and villains, those working behind the scenes to bring us our daily brew, and the sometimes unsavory methods they employ. We've considered the true price of a cup of joe, not just in dollars and cents, but in the toll it takes on our environment and the people who make it possible. And we've explored the power of conscious choices. By choosing to purchase coffee that's ethically sourced and sustainably produced, we're voting with our wallets and making a statement about the kind of world we want to live in. But the conversation doesn't stop here. It's important that we continue to share these truths about the caffeine industry. Because knowledge is power, and the more people who know, the more we can effect change. So as you reach for your next cup, remember what went into it. Remember the people, the process, and the planet. Make your choice a conscious one. And remember, every sip you take is a step towards a better world. Now that's a coffee worth waking up